Is when I was graduating high school was the 2008 financial crisis in the United States. My parents lost their house. A lot of people were losing their jobs, their pensions, their whole livelihoods. So to follow the traditional 9 to 5 and you get a pension and you are set for life, it didn't work for us anymore because we just saw our parents lose all of that.
So I mean, you're wearing a sari and I'm wearing something like a semi-Western kind of wear, and I think it's very difficult to imagine that this would have happened 10 years back, when there was a bit of kind of like a judgment on the way you have to dress. You have to dress in a particular way if you're going for this kind of a meeting, this kind of wear if you're somewhere else, and I think this is kind of like a reflection of the changing times. Do you think so?
I agree with that. And I actually had a lot of people ask me, why am I wearing a sari? Like, my Indian friends asked me because they said, I would never wear that. I don't have to wear that anymore. I don't want to. It's whatever. And for me, I find it traditionally, it's very interesting to try out different cultures as I go. I travel a lot, especially in my work. And I find it really important to connect with the local culture. So for everyone else, maybe this is something that they have to wear on a regular basis. And for me, it's fun to wear it.
It grows with you, kind of. You know?
Yeah. But traditionally, I think it's amazing that has changed so quickly, especially in my generation. I've seen, I'm from a corporate background. I worked in the legal field in the United States, and I was usually the only woman in my office. And I always wore high heels. I always had to dress in a certain way, or I felt like I had to in order to fit in. And I think that has changed a lot, even in the last 5 years.
You talk about changing cultures as you travel from country to country, but even within the corporate environment, whether it's Mumbai or whether it's New York, you have so many different subcultures because you're dealing with maybe 3 to 4 different generations of people, and each generation comes with their own set of cultures. I think that's a huge challenge that organizations are facing today, and especially the millennials are not willing to listen.
I think I technically qualify to be a millennial, but a lot of people ask me, like, why are we like this? Why is this like that? And what I always say is, when I was graduating high school was the 2008 financial crisis in the United States. My parents lost their house. A lot of people were losing their jobs, their pensions, their whole livelihoods. So to follow the traditional 9 to 5 and you get a pension and you are set for life, it didn't work for us anymore because we just saw our parents lose all of that. And so for us, it was like, why would we go through that? Why would we follow the steps that everyone else was doing? It didn't work out for them. So I think a lot of people, a lot of my colleagues, we all started our own things. We started trying new things because we didn't want to do the thing that everyone else was doing. It didn't work, which has resulted in maybe other generations looking at us like we're crazy or we're changing too much. But I think we're changing just enough because the world is changing very, very quickly, and especially with technology. Industry 4.0, all of those things are changing things overnight sometimes. So if you don't keep up with it, if you stay constant, you're gonna fall behind. And so I think we're just so used to moving quickly, and I think that's a good thing.
What do your parents have to say about this? They probably, had this, your father probably would have had a regular job, and you don't have you can chug that whole thing and you try and do it on your own. Do they think that you're in a secure kind of a place?
I think it's hard to, well, my dad is an entrepreneur, so he started his own. I think I've seen from an early age how quickly you can turn things around. So I think I'm a very unique case in that way. But trying to explain to them what I do while I'm traveling and that I'm making money and that I'm not just sitting on the beach with a coconut is like very hard to get across. I think they just know, okay, she's doing her thing, she's happy, and so we're happy for her.
Right. So I think the whole idea of happiness has changed. That it's not about getting a job and a salary, right? That's what the new generation is all about. Yeah. So you work with corporate clients.
So a lot of corporations are seeing the turnover in millennials. Like the people they can't retain their employees, their best talent, and they don't know what to do. And they also realize that people want more flexible workspaces.
I think space can be used as a very powerful tool to actually retain people, right? In the sense that you're hiring a set of brains. And if you're losing people continuously, it's a big loss, which a lot of people don't understand and don't know what to do about that.
Yeah.
So far, I think corporate valuation has always been about brand identity, about corporate culture, and space in terms of real estate and the working space has always been something else. It's a huge expense, which is kind of managed by those backroom boys. I think that is beginning to change.
A lot of it too is their metrics are for external metrics, but they're not realizing that a lot of the people that are creating those external metrics need to
Yes.
have a nice working environment, and so they need to have internal metrics of happiness. And there's some companies I worked with that now have this anonymous scale where people can take surveys, and they have a company culture like temperature. So people take a survey, and if they like their work environment, it goes up and down, and everyone can see it. So I find that just interesting that they're willing to put that out there and make it transparent like that.
Yeah, I mean, in the sense, you spend millions of dollars in understanding your end users, the customers of your products, but you're probably not doing enough to actually understand what your people want within your organization. I think that whole thing is beginning to change now, I think.
I was going to say, I just worked with, so they just did a big employee experience program that I helped them build out, because they realized that their employees were leaving too fast and they didn't know what they actually wanted. Why were they leaving? What would make them stay? So we built out a whole program just to study it and talk to them. I find it so interesting that people don't talk to the end user, whether that's your employee or your customer, which I'm sure you've worked with yourself.
So what was the number one reason for people leaving?
They didn't feel like they had an impact on the work that was being done. They felt like people were just telling them what to do, and especially from a millennial perspective, they want to feel like they're showing up and that they're not replaceable, easily replaceable at least.
Yeah. So the new generation kind of needs to know how am I doing immediately, and they're not willing to wait for that end of the year review. I think that's out.
Yeah, instant gratification. Everyone wants instant gratification. It's true.
Did you, by any chance, in any of these studies, find out what's the average length of stay within one corporate organization for people? I'm sure it has come down drastically.
2 years.
What's the average now? 2 years?
If you can keep them that long.
When it comes to Asia, I think most of the work that is being done, especially in cities like Bangalore or Hyderabad, are largely service-oriented work that you're doing for American clients or somewhere else. And they're not front-end kind of work that you're doing, back-end kind of work. Have you had experience in dealing with back-end kind of people as well as front-end kind of people, and if you've seen any difference in them, or you think they're kind of unified by certain laws of the way we work today?
I mean, I think everyone wants to show up and feel like they can make a difference at work and also have connection to their employees, like other employees, like other people at work. But I do think that people that are working on more back-end stuff, they actually need more attention, because they're not getting that interaction with the client where they can have a yes or positive or negative experience where they know directly what's happening.
Right.
They're usually working on the back end. They don't see the end result of if it worked or not until a lot later. So I've seen a lot more disengagement with them, and then, which equals higher turnover, because people, it's almost that it's like it's not positive or negative, but zero feedback is worse than negative feedback. That's what I've noticed. So even if it's negative feedback, okay, now you're telling me now I know what to work on. If you're giving me no feedback, then I'm obviously not doing a good job. You don't care about me. I'm going to leave. That's just the way people think.
I think one of the reasons is also that I think a lot of the tasks that are being handled by the back-end people are also being taken over by algorithms and robots.
AI is going to eventually take over. So that's why the skills of 2020 that they talk about in the World Economic Forum report was that you need to have critical thinking skills, customer service skills, things that a computer cannot easily replace. And those are, I think, what millennials do have a lot of. If you can engage them in the right way. Otherwise, they just want to be on their phone.
You speak about AI. Of course, the science is out there to show that with the advancement in AI as well as the biotechnology, I think by 2050, humans will have no work to do. Theoretically speaking, it's possible, it's quite possible. But obviously, governments will not allow that to happen, because there are a lot of social and ethical issues to be done. Have you ever thought about what the workplace of 2050 or maybe even earlier will look like? Is it going to be completely digital?
I think people love to talk about the digital side of it because it's so new. But as humans, we're wired for connection. So I think that will always be there. And I think as we become more digital, I think the need for connection in different ways is actually going to increase, because people are feeling more disconnected because they're interacting with tools all day long, like digital tools. The conversations that you have with someone offline is like exponentially more impactful than messaging someone. You don't ever see their face, you don't hear their voice, because there's something that happens when you're face-to-face with someone that you can't really replicate, at least not so far, on through technology. So I still think it's super impactful to just meet in person. I know, like, I come from a corporate background, but a lot of times with human connection, if you connect on a level where you're helping someone, where you're giving back to the community, that connection is so much deeper than a transactional connection of I paid you for something or this and that. When we create these co-working spaces or doing consultancy work, I think it's really important to be intentional about also creating spaces where people are giving back. So I see that a lot in corporations, creating like co-giving programs and voluntary programs, and it increases employee satisfaction level because they, again, especially with millennials, they want to feel like they're making an impact.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that because most of my relationship, whenever I ask for a meeting with a large corporate, that meeting is very transactional. Okay, what's the deal for me? It's kind of that's the kind of attitude. But when I meet these young chaps from co-working spaces, young startups, it is not so. It's about what can we do together. And I think that's the future of the way we are going to work, because co-working spaces has the opportunity for us to actually enable co-creation, I feel, and to develop IP together. I mean, it's a big advantage that we're looking at, I think.
Yeah, and imagine if you can take that tool set that co-working space people have and transfer it into a corporate setting, you would make so much more money.
Yes.
You would make so much more impact, everything. Yeah. So that's what I've been doing. I've been kind of blending both of those, and I find it really interesting because I find people are either cold and corporate or they're fluffy and they don't want to they hate money and they don't. You need to be okay with making money because you have more impact. You have more power to make positive impact, and you can have it all, like you can have a really amazing space and make positive impact and also be financially very well off and be doing really well. And I think that's a mindset shift that people need to make.
Yeah, I think we're kind of at the cusp of the change which is happening now with corporates beginning to behave like co-working spaces.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us.